What is going on, YouTube? This is
Jim Athanas. You can catch him on YouTube at Viper Magic. He has a YouTube channel exclusively about video games. That is his passion.
back with a really late to the party review of Titanfall 2. I finally got a chance to play this game. Thanks, Brent, for letting me pick it up. And I have to say, I actually liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Now, I was pretty critical of the the lack of online players, and it seemed like this game gravitated towards the lower end of what I'd consider an active community. When I was playing, I saw anywhere from 6,000 to about 12,000 players, which the reality is you only need 7 other players to make a good match, so I can't beat it up too bad. But at the same time, the community is a little smaller than I would have liked it to be. I think that has a lot to do with when this game was launched compared to Battlefield 1 and the new Call of Duty game. But that said, the community is really vibrant and they are very passionate. The subreddit was very vibrant. People tweeting with me constantly. I met a lot of cool people online playing through this, and that is cool. I do like that. So community is small but passionate, and the game seems to be having some good support with it. So I don't think that this is something you have to be worried about. Like my initial impression of, I think the community's too low and I'm worried about this. I don't necessarily feel that that's the case anymore, because I think there is enough there that will keep you occupied. And the game is still launching some new map packs and that sort of thing. So there's still more coming. Playing through it, I thought that going into it, I would like the multiplayer better, but I think when it was all said and done, I like the single player better. I'm not going to get into spoilers because I don't want to ruin it for you guys, although I do feel the statute of limitations is probably lapsed on this game. That said, I'm not going to give anything away that you don't already know in terms of high-level plot. I will say that the two things that stood out to me are the boss battles at the end of every level when you fought up against an enemy Titan who had been taunting you the entire match. That was really, really cool. They were pretty simple. There wasn't much of a challenge in the Titans that I fought, but it was just neat to have a boss battle because you're going through waves and waves of enemies, and then you get to somebody who's just a little more tough than the regular enemies you would face. And sometimes it had a little bit different gimmicks or mechanics that you had to play through. Viper by far was the hardest one I played. Every other one I beat in the first try. So not that I'm a pro by any means, but the difficulty probably could have been a little more. It would have been nice to have maybe a little bit more mechanics in there than just stand there and shoot, but it was still fun. The second thing is the factory level. By far blew me away more than any other level in this game. Almost to the point that I feel that different teams worked on different levels and they didn't necessarily communicate. A lot of the other levels in this game are very just gauntlet type levels where there's really not much exploration required. You're just going to go straight down a corridor or a chasm or through a ship or a tunnel or whatever. The factory was this wide open, huge sprawling factory where they were assembling this these dome plates. And that was so cool to kind of navigate through and to, really have an open world experience more than anything else. And there's different ways to get through platforms and how you had to progress. And it was pretty natural which way you had to go, but how you got there was totally up to you. I think if every level had that level of like open worldness, kind of reminds me of those giant sandbox levels in my beloved Halo. I think this game would probably have been received a little bit better. But because this was just kind of a unique level and everything else was a corridor, I think it kind of diminishes the experience slightly. That said, I love the story. I didn't think that I would, but I actually really liked it. And BT as a Titan and his relationship to the pilot really grew on me. And I enjoyed it. When it was over, I was kind of like, is that it? I want there to be more. And a little, without giving any spoilers away, a little tug at my heartstrings at the end. But maybe they'll be back for Titanfall 3 based on sales. I'm not so sure. But I would like to see the adventure continue because I think that there's still more story to tell. And I think that although the crisis is somewhat resolved in the core experience, or the core story rather, I feel like there's enough in this world that's been fleshed out between the first and second one to really, continue this adventure. So that said, I thought it was pretty good. Multiplayer, surprisingly, I didn't like as much as I thought I would. Now, coming from a Halo 5 console background, very different than Halo 5. A lot more twitchy, a lot faster paced. I think the thing I did not like about it was the exceptionally over-the-top verticality. Now, you can wall run. That's definitely a big part of this game. And you have a grappling hook, which is going to let you swing all around the map like a freaking monkey, which is fun. However, when you are trying to advance on a flag or play and you are, trying to make a play on the enemy, It's got that traditional radar, so it doesn't tell you exactly where they're at, but it'll give you a quadrant. So you know the enemy's in front of you, or they're kind of like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever. The problem with the such high verticality is you really have nowhere to know where they're going to be. And if you try to use iron sights to pick an enemy down, chances are you're not gonna hit them. And nothing against the controls. The controls work well enough. I was able to aim, although I did feel sometimes they were maybe a little jerky. I know this was an issue early on and it was patched, but using the Xbox One Elite controller, I never felt like I had that 100% fine tuning of my Titan. Not to take any credit away from the game, which had a slew of customization options, more in a console than I've ever seen, in terms of yaw and acceleration and responses and dampening and everything. A lot of stuff in there that was really advanced, but still never felt that smooth arch. Now, that could just be my play style or whatever, but the problem is when you're trying to hit an enemy with iron sights, the game is a little jerky. And because because you don't know verticality where they're going to be, you might be looking straight in front of you, and they might be, 2 or 3 kind of stories up above your head, and it's hard to aim. The game compensates for this, though, and this is the thing I didn't learn until later on when I hit level 20, 21 with my pilot, that the game actually compensates for you and does a lot of auto-aiming if you're hip firing. To the point where I actually found running around with the car, which is one of the submachine guns, and just wall running and kind of aiming in the general direction, almost wiggling my thumbstick back and forth, kind of like spraying and coating over a general area. I was actually significantly more effective than when I stopped and tried to plant and do my traditional iron sight down the scope. And I don't know if I like that. It is definitely, if you're doing a one-on-one, like if you're running at an enemy with hip fire, and they're iron scoping you, they're going to win in the iron scope. But that's the old way to play games. That's the way you would play Halo 5, where you walk around, you're not really jumping and running on walls like crazy. You have some boosting and that sort of thing, but for the most part, you're planted on the ground. As with this game, they really want you to run on the wall. It's a faster speed. It's obviously much less predictable in terms of what you're going to, when you turn on the corner, you don't know, again, that verticality issue where they're going to be. But the game really kind of takes the control out of your hands and really kind of auto aims for you. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's definitely a lot better than iron sight. You're not going to be able to wall run an iron sight, obviously. So I didn't like that as much. And they kind of put the focus more on movement, and shooting was almost ancillary in a weird way because they punish you when you stand still. If I'm standing still to look around, and try to figure out where the enemy is, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to die. There's a lot of AoE weapons in this game. Enemy Titans are running around just bulldozing over people. When you are playing against an attrition where you have bots or specters or whatever, you cannot beat them one-on-one. You cannot stand still. So the game forces you to kind of run and wall around and kind of put control in its hands. And like, well, if you're in a good position because you're running around the wall, there's a good chance you're going to win an engagement because your auto aim is going to be able to shoot the enemy faster than they're going to be able to try to iron sight you down. And I didn't like that. I think that was a huge missed opportunity in this game. But in their defense, when you think about a game that has this much movement, there's really no other way to do it. You kind of have to do it this way. There's not really like, oh, well, you're going to be able to wall run and somehow iron scope or time's going to slow down or something. I'm not really sure. But for that, I felt like the advantage I would have had competitively was completely removed, and it turned into this just dumb luck of just bouncing from wall to wall, generally spraying with a fast shot weapon at close proximity, and usually I won the engagements. When I first started, I was only getting 3 or 4 kills a game. By the time I kind of realized this mechanic, as I was talking about, I was getting 10, 15, and I was always in the top 2 or 3 kills on our team. So definitely did a lot better. Customization is pretty good in this game in terms of there's a lot of stuff, but it takes forever to unlock. And it doesn't necessarily do a lot for me in terms of like, well, you had a regular gun, and now you have the camo gun, and just this little tiny like wood inlay pieces changed. I didn't really feel like, even like Gears of War, which I kind of panned for customization, I feel like that had a lot more than this. And yes, there is a lot of quantity in this game, but the quality in terms of customization, in my opinion, is severely lacking. You can sign up for different factions. There's a bunch of different factions in the game that each have their own types of rewards, which is kind of cool, but you don't really get to customize your character. That's based on what skill you have, whether it be camo or grappling hook, or, there's a bunch of different perks that you can earn in the game. That's kind of what your character looks like. You only choose male or female. like I said, the guns, there's really not a lot there in terms of customization. So each gun only has a couple different perks that you can unlock with it, like faster iron sights, which to me is useless now, bigger clip size, which is kind of nice, or things like that. But maybe a scope here or there, but nothing in terms of like the deep customization. So you're not really getting it on either end. You're not getting the flashy cool stuff, and you're not getting the overly technical Rainbow Six or Battlefield 4 with like different types of grips or different types of handles for different types of like bullet spray patterns or stability. So kind of a miss to me on that, but it is fun. And I do like it. And I think it's one of those games that as I was playing it, I kept saying, I'm done. I'm not playing this anymore. This game's stupid. But then I kept coming back and playing one more match, one more match, one more match. It is fun to run around. It is fun to, just be crazy and just do crazy wall bounces and throw grenades all over the place and try to get some good kills. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to do yourself a disservice to your shooting skill, because I think taking this game and then jumping back into Halo, or when Call of Duty comes out later in the year, I think you're going to find that you're going to be worse, because this game's going to do a lot of work for you. And I feel like you need to kind of do it on your own. And the game, because of the way it's designed, there's really no way around that. So unless you want to play single player and just, snipe bots with like crazy headshots, you're going to be pretty much at the luck of this auto aiming system. So anyways, that's my final thoughts on, and my final thoughts / late to the party review of Titanfall 2. But it is a fun game, and I did like it, and I do see myself playing a little bit more before I give it back to my buddy. But until then, that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy Titanfall if you're playing it. Like I said, the community's small but passionate. Get out there, play some video games, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.